start recording. Okay, so the Myers-Briggs type indicator is one of many different personality series. And I'm going to show a PowerPoint presentation in a little bit that you can look at it anytime that you want. And it starts to explain why this particular instrument is perceived to be very, very valuable. And mostly it's because it's reliable and valid. And for any of you who've taken psychology classes, you know that the reliability and the validity of an instrument determines how useful it really is, and therefore how much of a predictor or how accurate is the predictor, all right? And this one has a high level of predictability, okay, of accuracy. So the first thing I want everybody to recognize is that in personality theory, it's all about what do you prefer, all right? Or what are your go-to behaviors or feelings, what you say, what you do, etc. And by preferences, that means that it is, I think it's falling down. By preferences, it means that if you have a conscious choice, you're going to prefer one over the other in terms of your action. It also means that even on a subconscious level, there are going to be times when you just naturally go to one type of a behavior, all right? You don't think about it, it's just what you do, and there's a whole lot of reasons behind that. What we also want to know or recognize is that every person in the world falls along a spectrum. And this illustrates what's known as a spectrum for the first set of letters, the E and the I. E stands for extrovert, and the I stands for introvert. All right? The number that you have tells us on the I spectrum going from 0 to 100, all right, on the I spectrum, the number that you fall on tells us what degree of clarity, conscious awareness of what your preference is. Clarity. You're very clear. You know what you need and you know what you want. And you work to make sure that happens. All right? But it's the same thing for the extrovert. Going in this direction from 0 to 100, the extrovert also knows with clarity what is it that they prefer in their behaviors. Okay? Is this starting to make sense? Yep, how it works? Okay. So the more in the center you are, the closer you are to 0, simply means that you are not as strong in one preference over the other. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are extremely clear, either conscious or subconscious. It just means that you don't have a strong will, desire, or need to be more one than the other, all right? Now, the first thing to recognize for this personality theory is that neither the E nor the I is better than the other one, all right? These are not better. These have nothing to do with good or bad. These have nothing to do with what you should do or should be. None of it, all right? This is just a predictive descriptor of who you are and how you behave, all right? So there's a whole bunch of personality theories that go into the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is what I'm going to talk about. And there have been a whole bunch more that have evolved after the Myers-Briggs type indicator. This is the one that's still used as the gold standard in business today. The one you did online is free. It's short. Its reliability and validity may not be as high as if you would take the one that is the long one that costs a lot of money. So if you are interested and you want to take the longer version, as a student here, you have that right and you can do it for free. You could simply go over to the Career Center over in Blue Hall, ask for Ms. Russell, okay? And she helps my students all the time to do the long version, and she's going to give you a report. The report is interesting and it's enlightening, but the report I'm going to give you, I think, is even better, right? Because I'm going to give you a one-page report, and less is more sometimes. So it's very succinct. And the report that I'm going to give you is based on the business world, right? So I use this in my consulting class. So when I'm working with the CEO and the senior executives at Scotland Health, or I'm working with the mid-managers and rising managers who come to the Moore County Chamber of Commerce, and then throughout my history, this is the one that I use, all right? Okay, so there are 4 letters, and there are 4, and there's the spectrum of others. So it's important to know not only your letter, but also your number. So the higher the number, the greater the clarity. And let me give you the example. An introvert, by definition, is somebody who, at the end of the day, needs to recharge your personal batteries, recharge your enthusiasm, recharge your willingness to work, to engage, to do whatever. Means that an introvert goes inside the self. That might be through reading, through gaming, through meditation, through running, through walking, through whatever is, fishing. Introverts oftentimes find fishing to be just fantastic. So whatever you need to do to kind of go inward to say, okay, this is how I'm going to recharge my batteries, recharge my own personal self. Okay. An extrovert is very different. An extrovert is going to have the external factors to help get them motivated, all right? An extrovert is somebody who gets really charged by interacting with other people. And this is the person who, at the end of the day, would rather go to a club or a party or out to the bar with friends rather than going home. They don't want to be by themselves. They need the interaction with people, the talking, and all that kind of cool stuff that goes along with it. All right. If you need to do your homework, go ahead. I know, but I'm just worried about you. If you need to do it, go ahead. All right, because I know how math is. All right, and this is being recorded, so you can always listen to it again. All right, so what would you guess I am? An extrovert or an introvert? After you've known me now for over 5 weeks. Extrovert? How many of you think I'm an extrovert? Extrovert, 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 extrovert. And I am not only an introvert, my number is 75. I am a 75 clear understanding that I'm an introvert. At the end of the day, I want to talk to anybody because I've spent all my day talking to you guys. At the end of the day, I don't even want to talk to my husband. Hello, pass. I'm going straight in to my gaming room, right? To my sofa, and I'm going to play my little G5 games that are silly, that all of you who are real gamers think that it's just like crazy, right? So I'm going to play hidden objects, and I'm going to play my, match threes, and I'm just going to do mahjong. I love mahjong, right? I don't want to talk to anybody. And when my daughter calls, I go, oh, and I turn it on, and I have to talk to her because she's got to do a debrief of her day, all right? Because that's the way we do things. So how you project yourself may not be who you really are. So, which is why at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I have no more energy in my battery. And so what I have to do is recharge myself. A little glass of wine never hurts, right? Along with doing my games or reading a book. So, what does that tell you? What does it tell you about the difference between an introvert and an extrovert? That's right. You absolutely can't. You have to really get to know somebody. Not only that, you can't go off of what you see, but what you got to do is to recognize that when you know what another person is, then you can speak their language, right? You learn to I speak their language. So if I know you are an extrovert, and we have a lot of extroverts, although your numbers are pretty low, if I know that I'm a bunch of extroverts, then when I'm speaking to you, I'm going to use examples that demonstrate extroversion kind of behavior, because I'm going to speak your language. If you're going to speak to me and you're going to suggest something to do at the end of the day, then you're going to speak to me in my language of the introvert, and you're going to recommend, why don't we go see a movie, right? Rather than go clubbing. So this can be very helpful in personal relationships, as well as in the business environment, etc. If I am hiring new employees, and if I'm hiring somebody to be a salesperson, going to sell some high-ticket items, it's going to be on the phone, it's going to be talking to people, it's going to go out to their homes, you think about the insurance agent, you think about all kinds of stuff. What kind of a person do you think on the Myers-Briggs type indicator I want to hire? What?
Well, it could be the extrovert, but it could also be the introvert as well, because if they get all the knowledge and have everything together, then that introvert can actually execute those sales probably a bit more effectively than an extrovert, because they talk too much, worried about everything.
Could be. Your answer is it could be either one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be either one. Now, when I go through and I explain the other letters, you're going to see that if I'm hiring a salesperson, some of those other letters are going to be more important. All right? So whether they are attention to detail, I may not want a salesperson that is attention to detail. If I'm hiring the accountant, do I want somebody who's attention to detail? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So those are the things. If I am hiring an operations manager on the floor who is in charge of a production line, do I want somebody who's organized? Yes. That's going to be a person with a high J letter. All right. I want somebody who knows where the nuts and bolts are, who understands what the inventory is, has got a handle on workflow, is going to see how everything gets done, right? Versus somebody who is, I kind of think we got that many, but it doesn't matter, because in the big scheme of things, we're going to get work out. Okay, is that the kind of production manager I want to hire? Absolutely not. And so that's what we do. That goes with a team. That goes with a work group. You want to have people that are complementary, but that are fit to the skill sets that you're looking and that you need, right? So let me pull up the Myers-Briggs type indicator. I'm going to open up this PowerPoint. You can read this on your own. You're going to see some famous people. How many of you did that where you went out and you looked for some famous people to see who had the same letters as you? Cool. All right. Good, good. Because that's one of the things you want to do. Identify who has similar letters that you do. Okay, so 1 second. I'm going to open up this PowerPoint so you all will be able to see it now on your own. It might be helpful in working on your term projects. I'm going to pull it up. Larger. Oops. Okay, so now I'm going to go here, share the screen. Okay. Julia, I apologize. I'm going to have to log off and go back on using a different browser. So I'll be right back. All right. You have to do what's called a bona fide occupational qualification to confirm that giving a personality profile is a requirement for the job. And if it's not a requirement, then it is against the law. So a lot of times what employers will do is that they have done their homework to say, we are going to get approval to show that this is indeed a personality profile that is a requirement for really effectively selecting the right type of people. And many of them are not, because many of them are cheap and biased, either racist or sexist or all kinds of issues. So I quit a job because they said that I had to teach what was wonderful about there's a restaurant business, polygraphs. You know what polygraphs are? Yeah. And they wanted me to demonstrate that they were valuable. And I just don't believe in them. So I said no. All right, Julia, can you see this? If you would please let me know.
Yes, I can see it.
All right, terrific. All right, so the information I'm going to give you is based on quite a this primary text. And I'm just going to skip along. Here are some common historical elements about the different types of personality theory. It's actually been around since the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, and they have been using it in a lot of different ways. It really got formalized by Carl Jung from Austria back in the 20s. And he was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud, but he wasn't as hung up on sex as Freud was. All right. Basically, Carl Jung came up with 4 personality types. So those are what we have as sensing, intuition, thinking, and feeling. But then Myers-Briggs, and this is what's fascinating. Myers-Briggs in the 1940s, they are a mother-daughter-in-law, mother-in-law couple. They were approached because of the research that they had done by the United States military that said, we're in a war and we've got to identify leaders and we got to identify them fast. And then what we need to do is to send them to officer training school, and we need to put them in positions of leadership that are life and death. Can you help us? So that's when they took the information from Jung and expanded it, all right, to include judging, which is structure, organization, versus perceiving, that's the gut, intuition, and extrovert versus introvert. What they also recognize is that when an individual knows about themselves, it's easier for them to know about others. And it's sort of like you got to love yourself before you can love anybody else. All right. They also came up with this being consistent. It's a 126 questionnaire, and they came up with the 16 types. So this is what I just used as the example for being an extrovert or an introvert. And these are kind of descriptors to describe you. Now, if your numbers are low in the 0 to 10 on either side, then remember you don't have a clarity on your preference. And so therefore, you might go both ways on some of these columns. So again, these are there for you to look at. But this is an important one. How do you understand data? How do you take information, whether it's from science or mathematics, or it's a report or history, textbook, or what have you? How in the world do you absorb it? How do you learn it? How do you get it inside your brain? All right? And you're going to see that 75% of the population are sensors. Now, I'm going to guess that Mike over here is a sensor, because you like to learn best by doing. All right? He's in the automotive program, which is perfect for his skill sets, for what he prefers. That's a match. That's a good match. That's awesome. All right? Some of you might be an I, however, and you are really driven by gut. All right. You just, you just get this hunch, or you just perceive it. All right. And the data is not as important, or the doing's not as important. All right. Now, if you have an N, that means you are more of an intuitor. I'm an N. I'm a high N. And here's how it shows. I got hired by a restaurant franchising company, fresh out of college, to teach brand new franchisees how to own and operate a fast food chicken operation. I had never worked a day in a restaurant in my life before I got hired. I'm a high end. I'm a high person who can learn in a lot of different ways. All right. Now, they put me in a restaurant for 3 weeks, and they did the, do or die. You either learn this through restaurant hands-on, or you don't get to keep this job. And believe me, I learned. I prefer actually learning by doing. All right. But I have the ability to also do the ends. Now that I'm old, I only learn by doing. So if people come and tell me in the computer, well, all you do this and this and this and this, I tell you, no, I got to put my finger on the mouse, I got to move it over, and I got to work through it. All right. So now, because I know I've got even greater clarity of how I learn mechanical things, I know how to manage myself. Now, how do you make decisions? Now, you see some of these are split by by populations. Half of our world, and this is based on America, US and Canada, half of us are really good at thinking things through, and others are really good at feeling things through. I used to be a high thinker, and my employees called me the coldest bitch in the world, because all I cared about was getting the work done and getting it done well. I didn't care if you had kids at home. I had kids at home. Oh well, suck it up. I didn't care if you had, car problems. It's your job to get here, get your car, take care of it, right? And as a result of that kind of behavior, I had extremely high turnover in my department. Exactly. That means that people would quit on me. I'd hire them and they quit, hire and quit. And that is expensive to a company, because every time I had to terminate somebody or they would quit, then the hiring process, recruiting, interviewing, getting them up to speed is extremely costly on the operation. So I had a supervisor come to me and say, Kathy, you better get your shit together. And she didn't say it that way. Because if you don't, you're going to be the one who's out. We can't afford you to run off employees. So honestly, I went into counseling. I went into personal counseling to try and figure out why I was such a bitch on wheels. And I did come to realize what was going on. And I felt in those days, in the 1980s, that in order for me to be successful, I had to act like a manly man. I needed to act like I was in charge. And you're not going to mess with me. All right. Because even though I'm wearing dresses and skirts and my suits, think of me as being a man. Well, that didn't last. So I was able to shed that stupid persona and start to be a human person, like a real woman. Oh, not that men aren't, because I'm married to a high feeler. My husband is a feeler. But I became a more authentic self. And so I started to empathize with my employees. And I started to care about them and treated them with a lot more care and dignity. Now, so you can see what thinkers like. Policy. This is the policy. This is the law. All right. Feelers are kind of like, well, some policies are made to be broken. Right?
Flexibility.
Flexibility. what does the situation dictate? All right. Okay. So how do we live day to day? All right. So this is me. If you have a planner that looks like this, you are a high J. Okay, are you a J?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a planner?
Yeah,
And it's in your, all right?
it's filled out, yeah.
And do you remember what your J number was?
22.
Yep, you're up there. You're up there. See all of us J's in the room? All right. And so if you have J's in the room and they need to, and you give them a task, if they don't write it down or put it in their computer, it ain't going to get done because they're going to forget about it. All right. So again, my boss, knowing that I'm a high J, would help me by giving me directions and requirements in writing. All right. But some people, again, are high perceivers, all right? So they're very open and flexible. Here's how my husband and I come to blows all the time, all right? My husband says, we're in the car, where do you want to go out to eat? And I say, well, let's first go and let's pick this up at Lowe's because you need to get that. And then let's go. And then I need to pick up something at the grocery store. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. So let's do that. And then let's go and go out to eat. And he'll say, I'm not moving this car until you tell me where you're going to go and eat. I said, well, let's go to Olive Garden. So he puts the car in gear and we start to drive. And then halfway through, I said, no, I don't want to do that. Let's go to Char Bar. Oh, yeah, let's go to Char Bar. And he says, Kathy, are you going to change your mind again? And I said, I don't know, maybe. All right. And right now, because he is a higher J than I, because I can go over to being P's at times, because I can be, oh, I like options. No, I don't really feel like either one of those. Let's just drive through Taco Bell. And make him crazy. Make him crazy. Okay, so you have P life and make you crazy. All right, kind of thing. So when it comes to him, I'm kind of a perceiver, spontaneous, I kind of emerge. When I come on the job, I am a J. So that demonstrates how we change depending on what's needed at the time, right? Let me talk about athletes. Let's talk about basketball players. Basketball players are pretty good at P's, okay? And the reason is because you don't know how the game's going to go. You're not 100% sure of what plays are going to work. You don't have a clue of who you're going to be necessarily guarding, all right, or defending against. So you have to be able to be open and adaptive. And when you're looking, you're thinking about opportunities. Okay, I got to see over there and over there and over there, and I can pass to him. All right. So there has to be some degree of spontaneity, right? And that's very much a part of some athletes, like on basketball. In football, oh no. You've got a blocking assignment, and you better block that assignment so that running back can make his play. All right. So it depends sometimes on the sport. Now, what's valuable about this is a guy named Kiersey, and I love this guy because he was going to Glendale Community College in Southern California at the same time I was going to a community college. And he went off and got his degrees, and then he went back to Glendale, and I went back to College of Canyons. And he did research to say, it's not enough to know about me, myself, and I. I believe that this information can be taught to counselors, to medical professionals, to high school teaching counselors, all right, to help them, all right, to be change agents. And so he created a temperament theory, which is really pretty cool. All right. And he and Marilyn Bates went on the temperaments, excuse me. So these are the other letters, and I like these a lot too, because when you start to look at who do you identify with, you might identify with some of these. All right. If you have the N and the F letters, then you are considered an idealist, according to the additional theory. And that's like Oprah, who's my idol, along with Michelle Obama. All right. If you are an idealist, you are all about becoming. In fact, that was Michelle Obama's title of her memoir. All right. It's about, I am a work in progress. I am in action, becoming. All right. Want to get better, want to be a catalyst for change, etc. But some of you, if you have the N and the T letters, you are rationals. And it's interesting because a rational here, a famous one is Walt Disney, and you might think, well, a rational is not very creative. Yeah, they are. Because rationals say, I can see a future. I can look at what we have today and take it and move it forward. I have power over nature. I can do incredible things because I do it well and I want to know how to do it. So these people are not about becoming. These are people who want to know, knowing. That's what's important. That's what drives them. They want to know what's going on. Then we have the guardians. Now, any of you who are going into the service industries, such as early childhood development, if you're going into nursing, if you're going into physical therapy, you will probably be in this category because you are S and J's. You want to be accountable, but you have a strong sense of responsibility to a community, responsibility to others. You believe it is your duty as a human being to help others. Serving is what's most important to you. You want to serve others. Okay? So when you look at your letters, look and see what combinations you have. And then this is one of my favorite guys in the whole world, Magic Johnson. Okay, if you know anything about Magic Johnson, in Los Angeles, after he went to college in Michigan, but he played on the Lakers, and when he played on the Lakers, he really made a home in LA. And one of the things that he did was he gave millions of dollars to the community to help people become their own entrepreneurs, to help African Americans and underserved communities become successful business people with high enterprising for lots of good reasons. He is a person who can negotiate. He's now got the Dodgers looking good. Thank you very much, finally. All right. He's got some input on the Lakers, but not as much anymore. But he is a person who is all about doing it and doing it now. He's a doer. He gets it done. And he makes an amazing influence. And think about this man and the role model he is, that when he was diagnosed with AIDS in the 1980s, early 1990s, when everybody still thought it was a homosexual disease, and he came out on public television in an interview and self-confessed, and what that meant for his basketball career. I have so much admiration for him because he set a new standard for athletes, which, fast forward to where we are today and we see our athletes now standing up for social justice. He's a doer, and he's a role model doer. Can you tell the pictures of people I picked? So this is the one I'm going to give you. When you come into class on next Monday, you will have for sure filled out your MBTI. I will know what your letters are and your numbers, and I will pull together a report for you. I will give you your report on Monday, and you are going to love it, and I'm going to explain it. All right? Julia, I'll send it to you, so you'll get it in an email. Then what you're going to do is ask questions about it. And I think you'll find it interesting. All right. So what questions do you have? Was this interesting? Yes, no? You like it? I love this stuff. Yeah? No questions? I know I went fast, but you've got the PowerPoints, and you can always rewatch it. And yes, yes, I just opened it on Moodle. Yep, so it's underneath where it says for you to do your MBTI. Yep. And I'll upload the audio, video. All right, you guys are a great class. What? Is required?
I said because we're quiet.
Because you're quiet? No, because you were attentive. Stephanie, you actually, you and Kayla, you give me great head nods and eye contact. You give me eye contact too. Mike, you're trying. He really tries. And back there, Cody, and you too. So, all right, let me take attendance real fast. Oh my gosh, today's the 15th. So Mike is here, Kaylee's here. William? Portia is absent. Zach is here. Stephanie's here. Cody's here. And Quentin is here. All right. Goodbye. You guys can take off. Let me see if Julia, no questions. All right, Julia, that concludes today. Bye-bye now.